Thanks for joining me on episode 348 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Paulson from Kara. I challenge you to discover your true identity and calling so you can be empowered to live every day to the fullest. One way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Mader.
The truth is, it's not about getting it all done. It's about getting the right things done. That's how you begin to make an impact with your time. That's how you begin to move the needle. That's how you begin to change your relationship with time.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about developing your influence by stewarding your time, I talk with you about why you must admit this truth that you can't do it all, why recognizing this is the first step to finding focus, and why this is important to your ability to make an impact.
As we talk about stewarding your time, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without just taking too long? Turns out you can't. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show just that quick. If you enjoy the show when you are ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon.
One of the most challenging areas that I work with people in is this idea of productivity and time management. One of the things that people come to me about when they're looking for help in this area is about this idea of not being able to get it all done. They have work commitments. Maybe they have a side hustle or a side business that they're trying to start. They've got family, they've got church, they've got friends, and then just sometimes time to even relax. And people sacrifice sleep. They sacrifice family time. They sacrifice work. They sacrifice all of these things, and they just get frustrated because they can't get it all done. Maybe you find yourself saying that yourself. You found yourself saying, I just can't get it all done. It's overwhelming. And the first thing you have to recognize and realize is that the truth is you can't get it all done. It's nearly impossible in today's world to, quote unquote, get it all done. In fact, you have to make choices. You have to begin to balance things within your life. And let me talk about that word balance too. We talk all the time about work-life balance. And you've heard me talk before about how in a very real way, work-life balance is a myth. Because we think about work-life balance in terms of being able to get equal time to all of the things in our work and in our life and in our family and in our friends, that, we can give everything equal time all the time. And that's just not true. First off, balance is a dynamic process. It's a give and a take. There are times that your life gets lopsided one direction. The real key is to pay attention to that and do that lopsidedness deliberately, and then bring it back into alignment with your priorities and your values over time. The same thing happens with getting it all done. The real truth is you can't get it all done. You have to pick and choose. You have to find priorities. You have to find things that are most important. Priorities. We talk about priorities plural. The real truth is it's about having a single priority at this moment in time, knowing what is the next most important thing for you to do, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. That's actually more important in a very real way than it is to always know all of the steps. Admitting you can't get it all done is the first step to finding that focus, to finding what is the next thing I want to do? What is my real priority? What is the thing that I need to focus on right now? And see, finding that focus, finding that most important next step is the key to really making an impact. Because the truth is, there are keystone activities, there are keystone habits, there are things that if you bring these into your life, they bring alignment and they bring power into everything you do. For instance, there's a lot of research that shows that when people get their money under control, they get other areas of their life under control. They suddenly start losing weight. They suddenly start exercising more. They have better relationships. Same thing happens for fitness. When people begin to exercise more regularly, it has a tendency to spill over and make them more disciplined with their money, to make their relationships get better, to make other things get better. These things are all connected to each other. These are what keystone habits are. And so building habits and routines, never cutting out the planning that you do, writing down your goals, really working to identify your priority and your values and what you want to make an impact in, and then writing that down and then prioritizing the next actions to be focused on those activities. These are keys to quote unquote getting it all done. The truth is, it's not about getting it all done. It's about getting the right things done. That's how you begin to make an impact with your time. That's how you begin to move the needle. That's how you begin to change your relationship with time. You find focus, and then you leverage that focus to do the keystone activities. This is why it takes time. People talk about building up the habit, because the truth is, it is a building process. And it is about building up habits and routines over time. And it is about taking the time and the effort to plan and to identify what are the most important things for you to be doing so that you can get them done. It's about not getting it all done, but getting done those things that you have chosen and identified as the most important. But what happens all too often instead is we just kind of go through life reacting. We go through life bouncing from activity to activity. We go through life putting out fires and dealing with emergencies instead of taking the time and the space to proactively plan and step back and identify our values, identify our priority, identify the things that we are called to do, and focus ourselves on those. And that has so much more power when it comes to making an impact. All too often people come in and they're like, I've got these 72 things that are important to me. And then I can't get them all done. I can't. Well, of course you can't. No human being could. Instead, you need to focus that power. You need to focus like a laser beam. You hear the analogy all the time of light focused has incredible power. Water focused has incredible power. The same thing is true of your time and your efforts. As you focus it down, it has incredible power and begins to make an impact. So the first thing you need to do is admit that you can't get it all done. And then the next thing you need to do is find those one or two keystone things that if you begin to get those done in a regular way, as a habit and as a routine, they will build upon each other and turn into a keystone habit that begins to move you in the right direction to increase your impact. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of time, be sure to sign up for our Stewardship of Time Tips series by going to inspiredstewardship.com/time or texting 44222 time tips and that'll get you our best tips on stewarding your time. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.